Hi everybody, welcome to our discussion from Chapter 7 from our School Reform course. We're going to be looking at breakthrough components which are in the Fullan textbook. This will be a quick overview. Obviously, in the face-to-face version of this lecture, there'll be a little, there's a little more discussion, but I wanted to put this up there for anybody who might have missed it. So, this chapter really goes over what the core components of purpose are and what are the breakthrough components. If you're paying any attention, you know that professional learning communities is the biggest idea in school reform. But we're talking about professional learning. It's more broad than professional learning communities, professional development, and we really use this to relate to the general concept of school reform through the learning process and participation of all stakeholders. So, I argue that very few concepts have become breakthrough in education. If something comes into an education system, it's well received, improves student learning, and sustains in an education system, then it becomes what I call a breakthrough concept. This is the notion and this is the idea of objective-based learning. This is the idea that you're basically creating something that's going to sustain. I always use objective-based learning as my perfect example for this because every single person that goes into education knows what Bloom's taxonomy is. It's something that you've learned over and over again. You've heard about it in your master's program, about your doctorate program, about your undergrad. Like, it doesn't go away. Objective-based learning stayed. Professional learning communities is staying. It's another. I asked in class kind of what people thought were other potential things that have stayed that were breakthrough concepts. Response to intervention was one that came up. I agree, that was a breakthrough in education, and it's a model that our schools are still using today, and it's something that is sustained and something that we've seen. These breakthrough education components are important because they're going to be there and they're going to sustain. Most people in education are expecting every initiative to come in and out, and once it's gone, it's gone. But if it's a breakthrough component, it ain't going anywhere. And those are the big ideas and the big lessons and the big takeaway things that we see in education, and they are few and far between. So, veteran teachers hate professional development for the most part, because they're used to programs coming in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out the door, over and over again. They're here, then they go away, and then nothing sustains. Newer teachers are more receptive, but after they've had enough of change, they get jaded. If it's a breakthrough component, it's not going anywhere, so it's going to stay and it's going to sustain. When a teacher goes without change, that can actually be a good thing. If you take a year off without a big professional development initiative or a big giant change, it can boost teacher morale, which in some cases, maybe that's what you're going for, maybe that's the big idea. So sometimes it's not a bad idea just to say, hey, we're taking a break, we're going to sustain, we're going to do well. There's nothing wrong with that as a leadership model. Our authors try to tell us to change what's lying around. If you do professional developments, try to do them in-house. I have found in some states that it's very difficult to do in-house professional development because of size. Florida is a perfect example of this. I'm going through Florida, and some of their districts have 5 and 6 high schools. Orange County is a perfect example of this. It's difficult to do professional development in-house because of the size. In Oklahoma, with so many school districts, you can do in-house professional development, and you're not going to have many problems with it, which I kind of think is a good thing. So, all concepts in education should be used to improve schools and improve student learning. We're going to talk about personalization, precision, and professional learning. The 3 Ps as Fullan would put it in this chapter. So, in theory, professional learning is personalized to the learner. We now have more students in the United States with IEPs than we ever had before. So we are individualizing education for all of our students. Should we be doing that for teachers? Should teachers get their own professional development, professional learning? Should principals? How can we do this? How can we ensure that the teachers and principals get their own professional development? I'll be honest, here's what we tell them. We say, go to college, go take a class. So in Oklahoma, when we do that, you have options and you have different schools and different ways that you can approach professional learning. As a district leader, you have to ensure that there's a takeaway and there's something to come back to. If you go to a training or you go to an in-service, insist that that teacher shares what they learned at it and that it just wasn't an experience for them to get out and get away for a little bit. So Find a way to personalize education for the teacher, the student, the home, or the school. It's difficult to do this with all stakeholders. It's a challenge. When you have too much choice, it's not necessarily a good thing, because people gravitate to bright and shiny things. It's one of the ideas that I've tried to consistently tell you over and over in this class, and you're going to hear me say this in other classes too. Your doctorate is the opportunity to find a few select things that interest you, that define you as a person. If you're finding all these chapters cool, that's great, but I'm really hoping you leave here hating some of them and disliking some of the stuff I talk about, because if you like everything, it's going to be difficult to specialize and come up with something. It would be, if you do, that's cool, I guess, but I actually hope you hate some of the chapters and you hate some of the content I cover, because if you do that, at least I know that you're being choosy in what you're doing. Precision is getting something right. It's finding a way to make sure that you hit the learning needs of the individual. For me, I relate precision to feedback. It is imperative to me in everything that I teach that I give the best feedback that I can possibly do. And I do it to shape the quality of how somebody's doing and what they're doing, and that the feedback actually has a purpose. If I'm just saying good job to everybody, or wow, that was a good idea, I'm not specifically telling you what I liked, what you did well, and to me, that's kind of being a fraud, and it's defeating the purpose of giving you feedback and giving you acknowledgement of what you've done right or what I think could be improved upon. I think a lot of that relates to your experience as school administrators as well, and it's something you have to consider. So, assessment has to be used to improve the learning process for all. If it isn't, that's a problem. Schools across the U.S. have too many assessments. You heard me talk about Florida and the fact that 50 out of 180 days they're doing tests. If you're using them as the do-all and end-all, that's a problem. I like standardized tests. I'm saying that on the record, I'm saying it on tape. I think standardized tests are a good thing. But I don't think they should be the do-all and end-all. I think they need to be a component of evaluation. How else do we know how Oklahoma is doing compared to other states? We don't, unless we actually look at what our state says versus what a neighboring state says. You can't do it if you don't do it that way. So, linking data to instruction. Anything that you do, that you gather data, it has to be used to improve instruction. If it doesn't improve instruction, once again, what was the point of doing it in the first place? Why did you gather the data if you're not going to use it? Most of the time, it's done using benchmark assessments at the district level, and at the state level, it's done for normally a standardized test, a standardized assessment. Data has to be used as a way to improve instruction, and feedback from any type of assessment has to be used to better the instruction for all parties that are interested and are involved in it. Professional learning is really this notion that teachers are learning to benefit them, but they're using that learning to benefit the students. Principals are using learning to benefit the teachers, and then they're using it to benefit the students in turn. You have to find ways, when you're district level people, which is kind of why you're here, that you can actually use this to improve professional learning and ensure that it's going on at all levels. Professional learning for principals is awful, and I say that it sucks, and it truly sucks. School districts really invest in training for teachers, and most school districts can easily do professional development for teachers because they put the principals in charge of it. But then the central administrators get to go away for training. Principals suffer more than anyone else in terms of professional learning outside their school district. One of your goals as a district administrator, when you get your degree and you get your superintendency papers, find ways for your principals to get training. They are stuck in the middle, and until that changes, we're never going to change schools. We're going to make schools better by making our principals better. That is our way of doing it. That is our golden ticket in this profession, and we are going to find a way to do this as a group. So, one of the big ideas in this chapter is working from the classroom outward. This is the notion of school-based professional development, knowing the idea that we're doing it internally. You're learning on your own in the classroom, and then you're taking it and you're building it out. But the district leaders and the building principals are using it. I'm recording this the day after I actually lectured on this in the class. So if you're watching this in a later class, the first time that I taught this class, I did it and I talked about it, and I really stressed this notion that only 10 to 20% of teachers are maximizing learning opportunities. When I talked about this in my face-to-face class, everybody in the room said, well, I do it. I do professional development. Well, of course you do. You're in a dog program. You're the smart people. You're the ones that want to improve your professional learning. So that, to me, tells me that you're actually doing it and you're using it. So that is a big idea in your maximizing those learning opportunities. Should we be concerned, or should we try to create more opportunities for the others? How can you go back and how can you hold the others accountable? This is another big idea, and it's something that you all have to think about and decide. What you do when you have 75% of the teachers that just don't care about an initiative? What happens, and what does that look like? So that's it. This is really, an overview of these breakthrough components. We're going to talk about professional learning communities. That's going to be quick. And then I'm going to transition into the DuFour book. So if I can do anything else to help, let me know. But hope you got something out of this quick little lecture on Chapter 7.